listening to Parts and Charts. I'm Chelsea Owens, the therapist.
And I'm Katie Kaszybowski, the astrologer.
Together, we're exploring a hypothesis that internal family systems and astrology work beautifully together.
Each episode, we test that out, and we're so glad you're here with us. Hi, everyone. We're back. This is Katie Kaszybowski. You just listened to the intro. You know who we are. It's Chelsea and Katie. We decided to talk about friendships today from the perspective of IFS and astrology. We do this a lot of the times. We don't really know how our frameworks are going to connect. So you're going to see live, like, our magic tendrils, like the dancing together. And that's the hope, at least. So to begin talking about friendships, where do we begin? In astrology, there are a lot of different places you can start, but it's best to start with the person's lived experience and then find places in the chart when you feel the tension or maybe there's a block or a barrier or a concern when it comes to friendships, like a specific friendship or a recent friendship breakup or meeting a new friend recently, that kind of thing. Like, there's usually an impetus to talk about friendship, and then the chart lights up and tells us what is happening. So approaching the topic is interesting, but I do like to talk about Mercury and Venus first, as it to friendship. So Mercury is the planet of, like, platonic love, communication, sharing. It's that kind of, like, lighter frequency of friendship. And maybe it's not just acquaintances, but it could be more of, like, that brotherly, sisterly, neutral kind of love that is important. It has a lot to do with like-minded sharing, or maybe not like-minded sharing, and having that ability to listen to someone who's different from you and express your differing views. So that's the kind of mercurial friendship energy. And Venus is more of that intimate, or like, you are like me, I am like you kind of friendship. And some people say that's more sisterly, and Mercury's more brotherly love or friendship. And there is a difference if we're saying those words, right? Like, brotherly love is more like we're doing something together and we're like making memories and having fun. And Venus, more that kind of friendship has more of that, like, we are getting to the core of our desires. We're expressing ourselves in a very intimate, special way, that kind of energy. So those two planets can give us a lot of information about our approach to friendship, or the type of friendships that we hold close to us. And there are places in the chart, but maybe we can talk about that later, like houses in the chart that can give us information on what types of friends you'd like to make, or what types of friends you feel fearful about, or that kind of stuff. And then I think it's important to bring up Saturn, where Saturn has a lot to do with fear and boundaries. And wherever Saturn shows up in your chart, or whoever Saturn is talking to in your chart, or maybe the transiting Saturn might cause difficulty or doubt or fear when it comes to friendships. There are blessings with the Saturn energy too, is that there's that, like, the Girl Scout, what's that phrase in Girl Scouts? It's like your friends that are silver and your friends that are gold. Like, your new friends are silver, your old friends are gold. The people who have endured with you over time are your gold friends. And that to me speaks to Saturn, or possibly a zodiac sign's energy. So that's where I kind of want to start. I'm curious what you're thinking of when I...
Well, I'm thinking, were you a Girl Scout?
I was a brownie, I think,
Ooh,
and that's where I stopped. Yeah.
junior. Yeah. Baby Girl
You
Scouts.
were
Okay.
junior?
No, I wasn't anything.
Okay.
I
You just
You can
know.
tell I'm salty about it for whatever reason. Maybe because my parents didn't, like, sign me up for that, but I don't think
Oh,
it was, like, popular amongst my friends in like elementary school. Yeah, it wasn't really a thing. So I did whatever, was the popular thing, I guess, or sports. I just did sports.
sports.
But I feel like this is the time to say, though, that, I mean, we're going to get into much more of the friendship topic, one of my favorite topics. But as you were talking about the mercurial and Venusian energies, or this in the brotherhood and the sisterhood, this just popped into my head. And I feel like I need to come clean and say that I was in a sorority.
Okay, that makes sense for your chart.
For 2
It
years.
does.
Wait, it was like freshman year, sophomore year, and then I think I defected like right when I came back from studying abroad in Belgium. So I was like, I'm done with this. But I like already had made my friends and like did enough, you know.
Yeah.
But I say that now, like it's just so funny to think of myself as like a 20-year-old or 19-year-old in a sorority. Kappa Delta.
I have
But
no experience with sororities. The colleges I went to outlawed them. So UW
really,
Milwaukee was one of them. They were outlawed.
oh wow. Yeah.
I don't know the exact reasons, but I think it was alcoholism.
Yeah.
But I definitely would have like loved that, like
Yeah.
being in a house with people who like are charity minded or like have similar
Yeah.
majors, that kind of thing. Like I get it.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
get
we
the
weren't
allure.
even like my school was I went to a Jesuit university, so it was like very not like the sorority and fraternity lives were like very minimal and there was no
Yeah.
houses. Like we just had one dorm that was like the Greek dorm. So it was a mishmash of like all the different like everyone was living together. So it was really fun. But it wasn't very like it wasn't super exclusive like amongst the different like sororities and fraternities, but because I don't think I could have handled it like the yeah big school level. That seems really intense. But okay, tell me more. Well, I do want to hear more about how that makes sense for my chart.
Yeah.
And for anyone else who's listening who's like, oh yeah, like let's look at how this all what these pieces mean in terms of like friendship. Like, do I value friendship or like want friends, or does this feel important? Because for some folks I'm sure like they're cool with like one friend, or I don't know, like it's just not important, or how they want to spend their time or their energy. And for me, I don't know if it's something about my chart or my parts or both. Friends have just been such a big deal for me my whole life,
Yeah.
and I've just always had to have like a best friend. We kind of do everything together. And in my like 20s and 30s, it was really important, I guess, to just have like a very large group of friends or like multiple groups of friends. And I just loved bringing everyone together and like doing a bunch of things together. Um, and friend breakups were really hard, as they are for I'm sure a lot of
Hmm.
people. How like devastating that can be, even harder than like a romantic breakup sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe we can cover that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So going for your chart first, going after your chart first.
after my chart.
So Chelsea, if you're not aware of Chelsea's chart, I will say Chelsea has Venus in Gemini in the 11th house. So Venus, sisterly love, like intimate love, affection, appreciation, art, right? In the 11th house of like-minded individuals or groups or friends.
Oh.
There are a couple houses that denote friendships, but so there's just already this emphasis in your chart there. And I just have to double check. I'm gonna quickly look. Yeah, there are no malefics making a connection to your Venus in that house, and there are no other planets in the 11th house. So already it's like a clean and clear, not so complicated energy.
Mm.
And Gemini energy is also like loves to chat. Like Gemini energy is ruled by Mercury, a very friendly, friend, like interested zodiac sign.
Yeah.
Gemini energy thrives when there's many people to bounce off of and get to know and like learn from, right? So you
Mhm.
have all of this, like, yeah, everything points to that. And it's interesting that you were in a sorority because of that. It's like if Venus were in your third house, where I like to say that's like friends that are like family or friends that are in your childhood or your immediate environment.
Yeah.
If Venus was there, sorority might not have made as much sense.
Interesting.
But your third house is ruled by Libra, which is a
Oh.
Venus ruled sign as well. So Libra energy would tell me a little bit of information that feels like sorority life. Because Libra
Mhm.
likes that warm, intimate, just balanced way of making friends. So, but that's
Yeah.
not where your Venus is where your Venus is. Though Venus rules your third house of friends that are like family. And I know that you have friends that are like family.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And another element, okay, yeah, we're just talking about Chelsea's chart right now. You have the other benefic, the planet that says yes, in your other house, I would call a friendship house, which is the seventh house of bonded relationships or really, really close
Um,
relationships. Marriage is one
mhm.
of those relationships, but that house tends to show up as best friends, at least in my experience when I'm looking at other people's charts. That
Yeah.
energy is usually where your best friends show up. So
Whoa.
you have a lot of emphasis on friendship in your chart just naturally. And I'm gonna double check again if there's complications. Yeah, and your Jupiter is not necessarily complicated by anything else in that house.
So what would that mean? Like, what would that point to as a best friend material? Like, what
Yeah,
kind of best friend would show up there? What does that look like?
we're just talking about this as like marriage partners off the air, but it's the same thing. I like truly believe that the energy like bonded relationships are such a sacred part of our lives and they tend to mirror each other depending on who the person is. Like I have a soulmate best friend, right? And I have a husband and they have very similar energy in different ways.
Yeah.
And I can't live without either of them,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't want to. So, like, it's similar. So, for Chelsea's chart, you have one planet in there. We could look at the asteroids, but I don't have them up. So, you have Jupiter in
Check it out. Yeah.
Aquarius in your seventh house. And your seventh house is ruled by Aquarius, which is ruled by Saturn.
Hmm.
So, we get a bunch of information there. Jupiter energy tends to show up in optimism or adventure. Jupiter
Oh.
rules the two zodiac signs, Pisces and Sagittarius. So, if we want to be extremely literal, like best friendship energy might show up as someone who has Sagittarius or Pisces in their chart prominently.
Yeah.
But then, if that's not true, or that's not enough information, which I don't think it is, your seventh house is ruled by Saturn. So, we look where Saturn is, and Saturn is double checking. Yeah, in Scorpio in your fourth house. So we're getting a lot more information there. So Saturn energy is like high integrity,
Hmm.
very mature,
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
do anything unless they know they're going to devote to it, like that kind of energy. And it's
Hmm.
in your house of your private spaces, your home, and safety and security. So we're getting that like
Hmm.
high optimism, like let's go out and see what happens, Jupiter energy, and this scorpionic
Mm.
Saturn energy, which is like maybe a little bit more like careful about who you let in.
Yeah.
Scorpio is ruled by Mars, another planet that says no right away, like has boundaries.
Hmm.
So it's like it's interesting to have these two kind of opposite energies in the same space.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you.
Okay.
When it comes to the closest bonded relationships in your life so far, have they had one or both of those energies?
Ooh. Yeah. Let me reflect on that. Yeah. Yeah. I'd say so. I wonder if when I'm attracting, like, I wonder if there's something like unconsciously going on for me when I am, or parts that are attracting one or the other or these energies by like showing up that way. Does that make sense?
Interesting. Yeah,
Like when I know that I'll attract that seventh house or Jupiter, like adventurous energy, like because
yeah.
I feel that way, right? And I know when I'm showing up that way. I definitely know that if I show up that way, I'll attract more of that, or
Yeah.
like other adventurous people will be like, hell yeah, she's fun. And then when I'm maybe a little bit more boundaried or whatever we said about the fourth house, like not necessarily a no, but like,
Safety minded.
yeah, I'll attract more of that too.
Yeah.
So I feel like I can embody both of those things and I probably magnetize people. But I think I could also, yeah, I think opposites also attract to like sometimes when I'm in my adventurous, like extroverted, big energy, I attract like the moody guys or women, like who are maybe a little bit more closed off, but they're like attracted to my kind of openness or
Yeah.
sunshine or my heart. I feel like yeah, the opposite also attracts.
I think it's really important that you're bringing that up too. It's like we're looking for the other in the chart right now, the friend in the chart, but it's also us as the friend,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, yeah, thinking about now I want to ask about, like, I know Meredith is a best friend of yours from a part of your life and is like continued to be a gold friend,
Hey,
right?
Meredith. She'll probably listen to this.
Do you, I know her sun sign, but does she have kind of that like complex combination of the
Mm.
Jupiter, Saturn, Scorpio energy?
Jupiter, Saturn, Scorpio. Oh,
I know she's smart. Like, like she
yeah.
can look through everything,
Gosh, we should.
which is kind of
I
fun to
I
me.
really need to look at her whole chart. We need to look at her whole chart.
Yes.
Um,
We'll do a whole
but
app.
I think what I really admire about her is that she is very and yeah, she's Gemini sun, but she has like a almost like a page of swords or like a queen of swords energy where
Yeah.
she's super discerning and she can like kind of cut stuff away that doesn't feel like she's not people pleasing, but
Yeah.
she's very sweet and very like polite, of course, and like will
Yeah.
communicate that, but she won't like say yes to something just to say yes to something. Like you really know what you're gonna get because she's super honest.
I love that. Does that feel like Aquarius?
Yeah.
Aquarius energy?
Good question. Perhaps. Yeah. I'd have to think about that a little bit more, but we
Yeah,
really
but
need to
so
see her
now I
chart.
want to go through my best friends and like, do they have Cancer energy?
Yeah.
That's my seventh house.
Yeah. Like, what I appreciate, like, I'll just, yeah, I think I was just with her like maybe 2 weeks ago, but you know, if someone's like, oh, I really like pickles, like I'm giving an example. I can't remember what somebody said recently, and she was like, no, I don't like that. And it's just like, it's so it's so real and
Yeah,
like yeah you know you're just gonna get exactly what's real, and I really appreciate that, and I think I really need that in relationships and friendships
yeah,
because I want to know where people stand, and
yeah,
it helps me to feel secure and safe to know like, oh, this person's just being really honest
yeah.
and true to themselves and still like, polite. Like they're not trying to be harmful with their
Right.
honesty in any way. um
I
Yeah,
would
I feel like
argue that is
yeah.
Saturn energy. Like Saturn has
Really?
something to do with reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like being firm on what where you stand or what you care about, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sticking to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
I mean, we're making a confirmation bias conversation right now, or I am. Like, yeah, that's Saturn, that's Jupiter. Of course, it works for your chart, but it does sound like that Jupiterian energy is important, just as that like them being real energy is for
Mhm.
you. Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
interesting. Okay, so for people who are listening, like if you know your chart, if you don't know your chart, look up your chart. Your seventh house gives you so much information for bonded friendships, like really close friendships. Like usually people don't begin as friendship or as best friends, right?
Mhm.
I do know two friends who started as best friends, like the day they met, best friends.
Really?
But
I mean,
most people
I've had
don't
that
start.
happen a lot too. Like,
Okay,
or
that makes
well,
sense.
does it? Because
Hmm.
if with certain people, and some of them, I'd have to do an inventory, but some of them I feel like they're not in my life anymore. Because sometimes those energies come in super quick and
Yeah,
then they leave super quick.
yeah,
Like, sometimes it blows up, sometimes it falls apart, or sometimes something happens and they ghost you and you never hear from them again. But more often than not, I feel like when it comes in super strong, even like with romantic relationships too, but with friendships too, like I feel like sometimes I get really pulled into that energy and it's so fun and it's like they want to, hang out all the time. And I'm just like, yes, like let's go do that and let's go do that. And like it does feel like good. It does feel good in the beginning. Um, and I think that something in me, it's probably some part of me that feels super seen or chosen or connected. It's like, I think it's young. It's like a young child part that's just like, you want to be my best friend? Like, let's go be best
yeah,
friends. Let's hang out every day. And like, you're calling me every day and you're texting me every day. Like, it feels so good. And I just get totally swept up. And, and then it usually just like goes away so fast or doesn't last.
yeah.
But yeah, I can easily fall into that.
And that's where we're talking about endings too. Like when a friendship ends and they are just an acquaintance, you don't feel it as hard as someone who is in that best friend space for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
It's like losing a part of you if that friendship ends.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
which is like
know.
this, I think, very similar to romantic relationships or marriages, or like when those end, parts of you are
Mhm.
stripped away, and that's
Mhm.
really difficult. Yeah. So that bonded relationships, like bonded is the word because when you bond, there's that difficulty of separating.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's science.
It's science. Astrology is science. Oh, we were talking about that
What are
earlier
the
too.
different types of bond? A covalent bond? Is that a bond?
That sounds right. It's been about 25 years since I've
If
taken
we wanna go to
chemistry.
chemistry.
25 years? Yeah. No, 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So going from here, so people listening, look at your seventh house. Let's say you look at the zodiac sign, whatever planet rules that zodiac sign, wherever that planet is in your chart, also gives you a lot of information, like we did with Chelsea's Saturn, who rules her seventh house, and her Saturn is in a different house for her.
Yeah.
I guess I can share like mine. I also have Jupiter in my seventh house, but my seventh house is Cancer, is ruled by Cancer. So then we look to where the moon is, and my moon is in the seventh house as well, which makes it a little bit
Mhm.
less fun for detective work. But so the energy of my best friendships tend to have moon energy or Jupiter energy. Or I have Chiron there as well. And Chiron energy is like I tend to attract people who are healers or who are actively healing and who
Yeah.
can see my healing as well. And the moon is like, I tend to attract very like intuitive, go by the flow kind of people, especially best friendships or artists. The moon
Yeah.
is very like you absorb information, you make it into something else. And Jupiter, yeah, my best friends always have this like level of seeing the world at a wide stance. That's not the word, wide glance, which is very Jupiterian, like being able to like get a sense of what is a field, right?
Mhm.
And not be so judgmental in the process of doing that, where there are ways to
Mhm.
be looking at what's happening and be really objective in making decisions and judgments, right? My best friends don't really have that energy. Like I wouldn't say any of them have editor energy. They're very
Oh.
much like receptive and excited to learn about something else outside of them.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's how I kind of interpret the best friendship for me. But then the next layer is aspects. So my Jupiter is aspecting almost every other planet in my chart. So
Mhm.
that is where my complications or my complexities come from with my best friendships and my marriage, is that every part of me in my chart is pulled or expressed in bonded relationships, as all the other parts have something to do with my bonded relationships. And for Chelsea,
Hmm.
your Jupiter is in a sextile with Uranus in Sagittarius, and also trining your Venus in your house of like minded individuals. So that's interesting to me that your friendships, I'm going to phrase that in a way, like, it looks to me like your friendships would have a flirtatious creative energy. So that's the Uranus in Sagittarius, also Jupiterian. And then your friendships would be, you find the close bonds very harmoniously, or there's an ease for you in your lifetime to do that. It's really
Mhm.
beautiful to have the both like happy planets or the
Mhm.
benefics in that really positive connection.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
whatever's in your seventh house or your 11th house or your third house, those planets talk to other planets in your chart, and that
Yeah.
can give you more information. And that's kind of why I brought up, like, if Saturn is involved, like in conversation with a
Yeah.
planet in your 11th house, say, there might be some difficulties because Saturn brings up fear, hesitation, that kind of stuff in our lives. But our birth charts are always changing, always moving, even though the data points are exactly the same whenever you look at it. Because you are always changing, you are always morphing, and the information you see in your chart looks different to you at different parts of your life.
Yeah.
Not even talking about the transiting planets that are always moving in the sky, but your birth chart is always moving because you're always you have more experience, you have more things to touch on. And if there is a difficult aspect, let's say with Pluto or maybe Neptune sometimes, it's an opportunity for you to go deeper, is how I like to see it.
Mhm.
But it's like you must acknowledge that there is a difficulty there. So
Mhm.
that's something that may be a little vague because we don't have an example, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was curious just, yeah, what if you even had some examples or off the top of your head had some ideas about like what a chart would look like if there were some like, yeah, maybe difficult aspects or like places to look in a chart where it would be like, oh, this, I don't want to say like, yeah, maybe not even difficulty, but like, uh, I don't even really know what I'm trying to get at. Just like, yeah,
Yeah.
something that's like a little bit crunchy about friendships.
Yeah. So let's stick with Saturn. So let's say if Saturn is in the 11th house, and they're a Scorpio rising, so the 11th house is Virgo. So you have Saturn in Virgo. Saturn it would be in the sign of Mercury. So there's this interest, at least, in communication, friendship, and connection, at least mentally, because Virgo is ruled by Mercury. But having Saturn in the 11th house would look like someone who would be either hesitant to enter groups. So let's say that there's like a
Mhm.
conference.
Mhm.
Let's say this person is a musician and they're at a
Mhm.
musician's conference. I don't actually know. Is that a festival? I think that's a
Okay,
festival.
yeah.
Let's
Okay.
say they're a writer
The guitar
and
conference. Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
they're at this conference and they identify with the person who would go to this conference, right?
Yeah.
But having Saturn in that 11th house might give them a little bit of hesitancy or fear to go into those kind of settings.
Got it. Okay.
But Saturn also shows us where if we devote ourselves or we get through the fears or the barriers, there is gold, there are riches on the other side.
Yeah.
So there's a
Yeah.
choice. You could like
So
lean
not just like introversion, right?
yeah.
Or is that what you're saying? It's kind of like
I think it
introverted
would
energy.
it might present as introversion, but it depends on the other parts in your
So
chart.
the like kind of first step of like making the friends feels difficult. Is that right? And
Yeah,
then
that's that would look like that.
'cause I feel like every once in a while, yeah, clients, I see that in practice, like some of the barriers that come up, maybe not even barriers, but just, I mean, parts that are so scared, right? Or
Yeah.
vulnerability is hard. Um, and then, so there's that aspect of it. And then there's also like, maintaining friendships. And once you're in it, once you've gotten to the conference, and then you're like, okay, now I have to go up to somebody and make a conversation. What do I say? Like, what do I do? Is this weird? There's so many things involved in just, making the friend and
Yeah.
then once you make the friend, okay, then you hang out. And then or why what even makes me attracted to this person as a friend? And then you're friends with them and you have to maintain a friendship and put in effort. And so there's just a lot to it, right? It's like first just like what kind of people do I attract or want to attract and want in my life as friends? And then you actually get out there and do it. And then you're friends with people and it takes work just like any relationship. And and it's hard sometimes. But
Yeah.
I think what I feel so curious about, or I just have so many parts that I've been trying to figure out friendship for so long, and there's just not a lot written about it. Like it's hard to find books. I feel like there aren't that many books. There's maybe more now than there were many years ago, but there's just not as much written about it, I feel like. And like the actual, maintaining of the friendships, that feels like so nuanced, but I'm sure there's, of course, there's many parts involved and planets.
Yeah. I think you're also commenting on culture.
Yeah,
There's this like
culture.
friendship is considered so much less important than other things in our society.
Like,
And
yeah, bonded, like romantic relationships.
definitely romantic relationships, definitely career,
Yeah.
like all these other things. And like friendship
Yeah.
is like the last thing that you try to cultivate or whatever
Mhm.
society tells us to do. But
Yeah.
so many people argue that friendship makes your life rich. And if you
Yeah.
don't have a certain type of friendship, even just one really good friend, your life feels cold,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So it's yeah, I agree with you.
Mhm.
And like, it's making me think of I went to a few conferences. I have Venus in the
Which
11th.
ones?
I love conferences.
Do
There was
you?
this really beautiful conference in Yakima, Washington. It was like probably a total of 50 poets. It was all poets.
Oh.
Everyone got to meet everyone. At least I met all 50 people, or at least was in the same room with all 50 people. It was beautiful. But there was a workshop just about friendship poems. And it felt
Oh.
revelatory because poems are like about trees and God and love, like all these things. And it seems
Mhm.
that friendship is not talked about enough in poetry. So then that's what we were doing.
Yeah.
We were writing about
Yeah.
friendship. We were like reclaiming the importance of that type of
Yeah.
relationship in our
Yeah.
human life. That's
Yeah.
that's what that made me think of.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's
Yeah.
I I've seen the poet David Whyte speak a few times. I'm a big fan, and I love hearing him speak about and write about in his poetry his beloved friend John O'Donohue, who has passed away. He still speaks about him, like, and about their sweet, like, poetic friendship, and it's just really
Aw.
beautiful to hear, like, two grown men
Yeah.
like, having this beautiful poetic relationship, like, totally just deep, beautiful friendship, and, I love hearing that, especially from men, because it's just, like,
Especially for
even,
men.
even harder for men to, like,
Yeah.
be able to speak about that, it's not as accepted and blah, 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 all the things in culture.
Yeah.
Um,
We certainly Yeah. Well, now this is making me think of like the type, if you want to make a new friend, like you know that you have that space that needs to be filled by someone who's special in that way. How would you go about it if you were just looking at your birth chart? And like, I
mm,
think the way to go about it is to look at the element of your third, seventh, and 11th house. So they all have the same element. All of mine are in water signs, and all of Chelsea's are in air signs. So
oh!
I think that's just like a really great place to start. So like water signs tend to like to be gushy mushy, like poetry, music, maybe even like literally swimming. Like it's very like intuitive, maybe not so verbal, although I'm a very verbal person in different ways. And then for
Yeah,
Chelsea, the air energy is like, let's go to talks, like let's go to workshops, let's converse.
yeah.
Yeah. Fire energy is probably like go to the gym, like do something that
Mhm,
uses your body and energy, or do something that is very energetic, and then you'll find that friend who also has that same
mhm.
energy.
Oh,
Earth
that's cool.
energy. Earth
Yeah.
energy, I have a hard time describing when it comes to friends, but it's like, what would an earthy friend be like?
What would they be like?
Yeah, where would you find an earth friend?
In the woods, in the garden.
Garden, yes, garden.
I mean, probably at their home, but
Yeah, it's like
a
earth
restaurant. I feel
energy
like
is like,
food also are
yeah.
like also luxurious things, like I feel like good
Mhm.
food and
There's this like,
also
what? Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Like earth energy like likes to be put to work, like likes to use their
Mhm.
bodies for the greater good. So
Mhm.
I'm thinking of like volunteering would be great to find an earth friend, or work, like literally at your work, especially of like lots of Virgo energy, lots of Capricorn energy. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's a good place to start if like I'm looking for a friend. Okay, what is your friend element? That's the trailhead, I think. Yeah.
What do you think? I love that. And now I want to make a list of like how I met all of my friends and like what their signs are.
Yeah.
But I need like more of their birth chart information other than just like sun sign to really get a full picture, right? I
Yeah.
feel okay. I feel interested in maybe discussing how we became friends and
Yeah.
what maybe we even do like a synastry chart. What even like, makes us so compatible?
What's interesting
Because I
to
feel
me,
like yeah.
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What's interesting to me is that we both have our Venus in the 11th house, which is like definitely, we met through an online like very private. It was just 5 people, like friends of friends, right?
Mhm.
We met online. We met monthly to talk about a
Yeah.
tarot book, and
Yeah.
we pull tarot for each other. And like tarot is one of like the best ways to get to know someone because you're really
Yeah.
getting into their psychology and asking questions and that kind of thing. And my Venus is in Scorpio, so my Venus energy is very much like I want to get to the core of people and I want to be honest and I want to be like there's this like intensity and loyalty that I
Oh,
really really crave in friendship.
yeah.
And then you have Venus in 11th, which is Gemini, and I like if I you can speak for yourself, but like Gemini energy also looks like a book club, but
Oh,
Scorpio energy
yeah.
looks like the tarot part of the book club, possibly. Yeah.
Yeah. Very true. Mhm.
Yeah. And I would comment on my Scorpio energy as like I am a ride or die type of person. Like I really am looking for the like that scorpionic intensity with the people I
Mhm.
love. Like I really
Yeah.
want that I want them to last forever, maybe to the point sometimes where I want it to last forever longer than it should, right? Like I that's
Mhm.
more in my values, like it's higher up in my values to want something to be
Mm.
lasting and like honest than for it well, I guess honesty would be the other thing that's the difficult part. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. I
Yeah.
mean, I think our playfulness really attracts us to each other too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're super playful, and, I was chatting with my neighborhood friend Alan
I
yesterday,
love that.
and I was being my normal self. I must have said something that was kind of sassy, but he was like, "You're so funny. Like, you have such a balance of brilliant and goof," and I was like, "Thank you, Alan." But I feel like that is true of you too, and
Oh,
I feel like that, with our friendship and our dynamic, I very much lean into both of those things, and I think that's what feels so nice to flow with you is that you're like, we can go deep on one topic or just, like, converse for hours about a million topics,
yeah.
and you're down to, like, go there with me and get really intense about it, and you're also down to just be goofy. You're like,
Yeah.
"Whatever."
I have some theories about that, but it's
Yeah,
interesting to me that we don't have similar if we look at like just on paper, if we look at
yeah,
like your sun placement, your like all of your planets and where they are, and all of my planets where they are, there's not a lot of it wouldn't be obviously compatible other than my moon
yeah.
is directly at like basically 1 degree away from your sun. So there's that really interesting connection there. But like I'm more I have more intensity, I would say. No, that's not true. You have a lot of intensity too. That Leo. That Leo. Yeah. I'm very grateful that we met.
Ugh,
And like there's
me
like it's
too.
so weird to have met you because we don't live in the same state. I've only
Mhm,
been to San Francisco once before I visited you,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
And like
Yeah.
I think that's the 11th house also has a lot to do with like people you don't necessarily live around. Like the 11th house in our modern
Yeah.
day looks like
Yeah.
social media or the internet as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah. I think yeah, that's a message to take away, folks. You can have friends literally anywhere.
Yeah.
You can have cyber friends anywhere.
But, okay, on that, like, if you have Venus in your 2nd or 3rd house, maybe you don't want friendship that's
Yeah.
over the internet. Maybe you really do
Yeah.
require that
Yeah.
physical touch, right?
Mhm.
I have nothing in those houses, so I don't know what that feels like. But
Interesting.
yeah, and you
Mhm.
don't either, I'm pretty sure.
Wow.
Yeah,
Very
you don't have
interesting.
any placements there, but
Yeah.
everyone's houses are significant to them.
Wow.
Yeah. The chart
Okay, I
really does give us
also
good information.
100%. I also am curious about, like you said, transits and, like, friend breakups. Should we go there?
Yeah.
Or, like, what
Yeah.
yeah, I'm curious about that, if there's a connection there, like, what and it's hard to say. What causes friend breakups? We don't
Yeah.
there's so many reasons. Um, or everyone's here for, what do they say? A reason or a season or something.
Yeah.
Forever.
Oh, yeah, there's 3, right?
Isn't there? What's the third one? A reason, a season. We'll think of it.
It's said a lot in my Christian upbringing. I don't know what that means, but it was said a lot.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
transits, friend
Yeah.
breakups, yeah, let's go there. They're so hard. I mean, I've seen it in my practice quite a bit, my own personal life, my friends, my other friends' lives who have gone through, yeah, lots of breakups with people, and it never feels good. Um, it,
Yeah.
and I feel like I notice like parts that kind of ruminate about it, like parts that kind of perseverate and like can't let go of like are searching for like an explanation, have to analyze it, just like with any breakup, but it's a little bit harder to get over because
Yeah.
I see people kind of trying to figure out like, did do something wrong? There's a lot of self-blame and looking for explanation. Like, did I not communicate something correctly, or was I to this or to that? Yeah. More so than
Yeah.
with like romantic relationships sometimes, because, it feels like not that friends should last forever. And I think maybe that is what gets us in trouble sometimes too, is that
Yeah.
maybe there is a belief that friendships should last forever. And when they don't, it feels like, I don't know, it feels really personal.
Yeah.
Like, oof, am I defective in some way? What did I do to cause this to happen? Because, we weren't romantically involved. Like, what's the other reasons why, we wouldn't stay in each other's lives? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
And then now I'm thinking of like self-abandonment in friendship in order for them to stay your friend, which is another
Oh,
type
really?
of hurt
Yeah,
that maybe
totally.
only you're experiencing in that friendship because the other person might not see it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like that I would say that would show up in the transits, or in those like karmic lessons in the chart. So
Mm-hmm.
it's important to point out that there's like anticipatory astrology when it comes to transits, and then there's
Mm.
reflective astrology. And I think with friendship breakups,
Yeah.
you can't anticipate them.
Yeah.
But if we are anticipating a transit, like let's say Mars is about to square or oppose your Venus, like that would look like conflict. Mars is the severing principle in our psyches. Mars is the planet that teaches us how to war, how to desire, how to grasp, how to go after what we want, and also what cuts us away from things. So Mars has that like knife energy.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever Mars is doing in the chart often looks like inflammation in the body. Um,
Ooh.
yeah, there's really good information there depending on what he's doing. It also looks like inflammation in relationships, so conflict. So that can be
Mhm.
something we can look for anticipatorily. And I recently had a really difficult Mars transit over my Jupiter and Moon in my house of bonded relationships. And I honestly, like, I don't like to share this as an astrologer, but I was getting so anxious about how that was going to show up to the point where it felt like I was just like attacking my own self. Like I was just
Mhm.
so worried that I was going to get into a fight with my best friend or something like that. And I just had to stop
Mhm.
looking at my chart like in that way, and I do advise people, if you get to that point, like don't look at your chart anymore. It's not helpful
Yeah.
to you. But it can be helpful if you have a healthy relationship with anticipation, which I don't know
Mhm.
if I do. And like understand that you are approaching a period of time where there are going to be inevitable opportunities, I guess,
Mhm.
opportunities to make sure you're doing something the way that you want to be doing it. So let's say
Mhm.
that Mars is opposing your Venus for, it's usually probably a week, maybe not even. For that week, you can approach that week meditating in the morning, getting good nutrition, sleeping well. And then if you notice that there's a relationship that is maybe stifled or there's something wrong, you can approach that person intentionally and offer as much grace and peace as you can in the process. Like that could be one way to
Mhm.
do that. Saturn's very slow moving, but Saturn also, when he aspects Venus or the moon or something in your chart, often Saturn brings moments of clarity, authenticity, and authentication often looks like you're discarding something in order to go in the right direction. And so
So
that could
that's
be something as well as for friendship breakup or friendship difficulty. But let's talk about reflective astrology. So going back in time, like maybe 10 years ago, you had this really difficult friendship and you're now just getting to know parts of your birth chart that feel like you can place them in your life. And you go back to that exact date that you had this conversation that ended your friendship. And you see Saturn was doing something or Mars was doing something. This gives you good information for how you can approach the rest of your life, but only as long as you aren't beating yourself up, right? Like,
mhm,
it's hard to think of an example other than like there are moments like the Saturn return, which is around age 29. Wherever
mhm,
Saturn is in the chart, he returns to that point when you're 29 and 58, and then every 29ish years. So there's always that like big, it feels like monumental shift in your life where you just like have to mature past these things that aren't working for you anymore. And Saturn, the house where Saturn is for you, tends to show you what part of your life requires so much responsibility and authenticity and practice and like all these things, like difficult things. But
mhm,
when you commit to that, your life gets better.
mhm.
If you have Saturn in one of those social houses, the third, seventh, or 11th house, it may look like a major friendship breakup at your Saturn return, or maybe
Uh,
many friendship breakups at once. That is really, really common, at least in the first Saturn return. At age 58, it's more of an internal or spiritual
mhm,
maturation. At age 29, it's
mhm,
like you really have to live a life that you'd be proud of.
mhm.
And oftentimes when you're in your 20s, we're not socializing with people that we would want to be socializing with in the life that we're proud of, right? At least that's like my perception of 20s decade. So it does tend like to look like a period of time where you fall off, and it can be really painful.
Mm.
So those are just some things to think about. Yeah, I encourage everyone to talk to an astrologer because I think it can be really difficult not to internalize like really painful moments in your life and think that this transit is something that you did.
Yeah,
Not like there are some things in our life that just have to happen
yeah,
as someone who's growing up or who's
totally.
right?
Right, we're always changing. If and sometimes friends don't change with us, or the
Yeah.
friendships don't change with us or evolve, right? Or
Yeah.
sometimes people can't handle you changing and, so it has to end. And I think what feels hard is when people don't get honest, like, communication about it. Like, if you
Yeah.
just get ghosted by somebody or if someone's not telling you the full truth, like, oh, I just don't want to be friends with you because of blah, blah, blah. Um, Sometimes it's hard when you're like filling in the spaces with information that you are assuming, right?
Yeah.
And then it's easy to just like kind of point the finger at yourself if you don't have all the information. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's really fascinating. Thank you for that. I'm also curious, like, and I've got over this with mostly my younger clients, like, yeah, not elementary kids anymore because I don't see them anymore, but have in the past, but like teen clients who are still, they have a lot of friendship dramas. And um, so we go over like what qualities are you looking for in a friendship. And I'll even do that with adult clients. Like, even at this age, it's like, it's always good to take inventory of what qualities you're really looking for in friendships, or like how you want to
Yeah.
feel in friendships. And I think that's also ever evolving too as we mature and our, whatever tastes change or how we're spending our time changes or our life circumstance change. Like what you're needing from friendship is always changing.
Yeah.
Maybe at certain points you're needing a little bit more like hands-on support or like direct feedback or guidance or advice. Maybe certain points you're not. You're just looking for I don't know, more like surface level fun or more like fringe friends who are like gonna go out and do stuff with you, go out and party, whatever. But yeah, qualities that feel important in friendships. And I wonder if there's anywhere you would point to in the chart that we haven't mentioned already. We've probably mentioned a lot of that already. Maybe seventh house.
Well, I was thinking about 14 is when Saturn, around age 14 is when Saturn enters the seventh house for everyone.
Hmm.
So when Saturn's in, like Saturn's in that house for about 2.5 years. So that's like
Mhm.
a lot of your teenage years. And that you really have to be careful, Saturn
Oh.
energy, with who you let into your like inner sanctum best friend ship or romantic relationships, right? Like that's where you're really seeing for maybe the first time what it feels like when someone betrays you or when someone
Mhm.
doesn't live up to your expectations or when you don't live
Yeah.
up to that person's
Oh,
expectations. Like
middle
that's what
school. Yeah.
yeah, that's what it's making me think of. Yeah.
Mhm.
And then it's around age 21 that Saturn's in your 10th house of career. And it usually is around age 21 that we are entering the workplace or we're getting to that place where like, who am I? What am I doing here? Like, what do I want to be doing with my life
Uh,
in this way? Um, that's what comes to mind with that. But
and how often like, I hear or have heard in my practice just how like everything goes back to, not everything, but more often than not, parts go back to like a middle school experience.
yeah,
Like blah, blah, blah didn't like my shoes or,
yeah,
but how traumatizing that could feel, right? Like little T trauma, like when you get excluded, or made fun of or called out or,
yeah.
all of those things that can happen age 14 or, middle school age,
Oh my God.
for the most dumb, superficial reasons. But it's like, it's so mean.
Yeah,
And our parts just like take that in and they're like, well, that's not okay for me to be, or that's not okay for me to wear or feel or express or say. Like, so I'm never doing that again. Or
yeah,
we can never, yeah, we can never let anyone see this about us ever again. And it's, yeah, so many parts get stuck at that age in all of these terrible experiences and then the beliefs that they make up because of
yeah,
that about friendships or about a person who, yeah, was just really mean. And it's really fascinating to see how much of that like still shows up in adulthood,
for
whether
sure.
it's conscious or unconscious. And just, yeah, and I hold that so like preciously because I really feel for those young parts that experience something that for them felt really awful and like and then, what they had to do in order to survive that experience, that age, and then, the years following that. So I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah. It's it's as you're talking, I'm like so much is coming to my mind because I think that there's choices made when there is rejection in that age. Like, is it safer to have one best friend? Is it safer to have 10 friends
No,
that aren't too close to you because they can't reject you and it won't hurt that much? Like, there
I
are decisions that
know.
you make that I think do show up in the birth chart. If I can relate it
Yeah,
to myself, like for sure my decision was a Scorpio and Venus decision.
yeah.
And then maybe someone with a Venus in Virgo or a Venus whatever would make a completely different decision in the face of like
Mm,
sudden certain rejection, which is middle school.
mhm.
And then you're saying also that these parts are parts of us forever, or they show up every once in a while, but they started then. Like that makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. And I'll be open, like my in the face of rejection when I was in middle school, like my choice was to choose the ride or die best friend because that was safer to me to know
Yeah,
that one person was on my side rather
I
than be
know.
worried if
Yeah,
10 people were secretly talking shit about me,
all
you know?
turned on you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
And that's middle school. That is middle school. It's like everyone's out
It
for
sure
blood.
is. I
It's wild.
know.
Like, is
I
that
know.
everyone's experience
It's
or is
like
that just mine?
I don't necessarily want to like try to protect everyone from that because it is like it's something that it's like you have to kind of experience some of these things and it is like a part of life and the evolution, right, of maybe just being human and experiencing life and experiencing everything that life has to offer. It's uncomfortable and it can be
Yeah.
painful, but that's also why we have therapy. and
And friendship.
and friendship and astrology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious, from the outside, do parts in a family system, is that what you call it? A system, do parts have friendships with each other? Like, would you say
Ooh,
that, like, we did the demo with my big group of parts, like, are they just really close
are they
friends and they're
friends?
working together? Or
That's so fascinating. I've never really heard of anyone talk about that
Hmm.
in the IFS world. Sure, why can't they be friends? I mean, I think parts help each other out, or they can,
Yeah,
depending on what they are, with what they do. Um, so they can be like, yeah, they can kind of be coworkers in that way. Um,
coworkers.
I mean, it's so possible, and it'd be fun to explore that.
Yeah,
Um, and I do think that, like, after parts have been healed and, like, relieved of their extreme roles, they probably have a lot more space to be friends. But what's, like, immediately coming to mind right now is just how often I see, like, really polarized parts, like, parts that don't like each other and are in conflict, are, like, at odds. So just, like, often have the same beliefs about the person, but want either to go about it in different ways.
yeah,
So it looks like a lot more conflict and hatred almost towards each other, like parts that just really don't like each other and want them to go away. So I see that more often than like friendly vibes.
interesting, okay.
Mhm.
We have to talk about polarization because I see themes that are
We
related
sure
to
do.
opposition. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was on the docket. We're going to do that.
yeah. Okay. Is there any last thing that you wanna say about friendship and the
What
systems, the
do
IFS,
I
the
know. What
quarterly?
would you say like I'm still going back to like this best friend idea.
Yeah,
Do you feel like that's like seventh house? Like it's like I guess just the and I'm just noticing this in myself too, like that like strong desire to just always have a best friend, like to always feel like there's one person who knows everything about me, or maybe like two or three. Honestly, I'm it's a tier.
yeah,
Who said that? I don't remember which actress said that. There's like a tier of best friend, and then like second level is like, we're acquaintances, or like maybe we hang out, maybe we go to the bar. And so it's many people could be in the best friend category,
yeah,
but there's like certain levels of criteria, I think, that come with like best friend. Like maybe you talk every day or text, or you tell them they know exactly like everything that's going on with you,
yeah,
and you know everything that's going on with them. Actually, I don't maybe we should even, like, define what makes a best friend a best friend. Like,
yeah.
what now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, "What is the criteria?" And I'm
It's
sure
so
everyone has
personal.
different ideas of what that means, right?
Yeah. I have a
Yeah,
friend who, like, she's married, and she's like, "I will not call anyone but my husband my best friend because that's a lie if I call anyone else my best friend because there's only one."
that's
I'm like,
sad.
"Okay, I have a very liberal definition of best friend compared to her."
Wow.
And I respect her position
Sure,
or her
yeah,
values,
I
but,
get
like, for
it.
me, it's like, I have, like, 5 to 10 best friends, but, like,
Yeah,
that's so important to me, and some other people it wouldn't
yeah,
be that important to have, like, 10 people know my
true.
state and for me to know their
Mhm,
state, every few
mhm.
days or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, mhm. And I think, like, there's definitely overlap, or romantic relationship, or like, yeah, uh, spouse, definitely plays into this because, I mean, just for me being like single, it feels, and maybe this is just me seeking security. Like, so I'm never gonna be alone. And I love being alone, but it's like if I have close friendships, like, okay, if something happens to me, some people will know about it. Of course, my
Yeah.
family would want to know, but like, and I feel like once you're in a super close, maybe marriage or whatever, like super connected partnership, you kind of rely on that person like to be the best friend. So maybe you just don't feel like putting in as much effort, or like it doesn't feel as important to have other people in that category.
Yeah.
But even then, I feel like for myself, I'd still feel like, what if that relationship fell apart? Like,
Yeah.
then I'd be alone. Like, I need to have some backups here. I need to have like
Yeah.
more
Well,
people in my support system or
yeah.
network because like I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket.
Yeah, I mean, this is making me think of like if someone has Venus in their fourth house, it does look like their parents are their best friend or their family is their best friend. So like there's
Ooh,
that kind of
really? Yeah.
conflation of like maybe their siblings and their aunts and uncles and their mom and dad are like friends to
Yeah.
them. And that's not my experience. My parents are my parents,
Yeah.
like my siblings are my siblings,
This isn't
you know?
Gilmore Girls. It's not
You
real.
know. Yeah. Rory 100% has a Venus in the fourth house or the 10th house, but 100%. And then Lorelai has Mars in the fourth house because she was like, "Get the fuck out of here." Yep, 100%. We will share the. I'm not going to promise anything. We'll share the charts that we think these people have.
I mean, they all
Yeah.
have like some kind of mom issues going on.
Oh yeah. That's the story. That's the whole story.
Yeah.
Was there something? I feel like we were on.
Oh, the best friends,
Something.
best friend energy, and the
Yeah,
criteria for best friends.
yeah.
Mhm.
I think it's
Mhm.
very personal.
Yeah. But I also the God, we could go on so many tangents, and I know we can wrap up soon, but I do think that like even when you're defining best friend qualities or like yeah, it just feels really hard to define. Because I notice sometimes with clients like parts of them that have felt so close to a certain friend and then it broke up or it kind of fizzled out, let's say. But looking back on it, trying to figure out like what was going on there, they noticed it felt a little bit codependent or
Yeah,
they were so enmeshed with the person's feelings that they felt their feelings. Like I can feel my friend's feelings are my feelings.
yeah,
And it's so easy to take things personally or if they don't invite you to something, it's like, whoa, like that, I can't believe they didn't invite me to something, and so that closeness, I feel like sometimes maybe in, maybe your 20s or 30s, it can feel like, oh, that's best friend. Like best friend closeness. And this even comes up with family members too. So it's not just like friends, but
yeah,
in this context with friendship, when friendships like feel that level of closeness, then you kind of think like, okay, best friend means I need to know everything about them. They need to know everything about me. We're this level of enmeshed, which I don't want to say there's anything wrong with it, but it can present some stuff. And
yeah,
there's definitely parts involved, right, that probably are seeking out that closeness, seeking out something or feel fulfilled by, either the other person or something in that dynamic. So there's a lot to look at there, but that's what I notice every once in a while.
yeah. This sounds like the mechanism of the first and the seventh house being opposite from each other. The first
Mhm.
house is the self, and the seventh house is the other. So
Mhm.
this just sounds like it's a very natural experience
Mhm.
to wonder who you are, like where do I end and where do they begin? And how
Yeah.
am I showing up in a togetherness and how am I abandoning myself or how am I giving too much energy to them? Like that
Yep. I
it's
know.
always a dance. And I think
Yeah.
it's like age
Yeah.
29, it really becomes clear,
Yeah.
at least in my experience and friends of mine, age 29 is when you like understand the level of codependency that you're acting in, if you are, or
Yeah.
if, like,
For
the
sure.
level of enmeshment that you've experienced, if you have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. The overgiving, right?
yeah.
That feels really true.
Or the opposite of, like, requiring other people to do things for you instead of you doing it yourself, or
Yeah.
having other people meet your needs that you need to be meeting for yourself.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting,
Mhm.
like, friendship is so
Mhm.
complex.
Mhm.
It's so complex to the point where, like, you can never
Yeah.
fully say if it's healthy or unhealthy or good or bad.
Yeah.
Like, well, I guess that's not true.
Yeah.
There's
And
lots of
I
good
I
friends.
have a lot of like I have a lot of compassion for like that, yeah, that area when you're in that area of life or and your parts are really needing like friends to fulfill your needs or and I totally get it. I get like how that happens, the utility of it. And how, like, energetically exhausting it can be for friendships, and
Yeah.
how it can, like, turn people away from you, right? It's like sometimes the things that you are so afraid of happening then end up happening because, like, your
Mhm.
parts are, showing up this way, and yeah, either, like, needing something that people can't provide, and then it sends this message that, like, "Oh, I'm too needy," or, all the things that your
I
parts can kind of
love
believe
that.
about
Yeah.
yourself from them. Yeah.
But also, like, it is wonderful to have an attentive friend.
Yeah.
So, like, I hear the fear. And then I also
Yeah.
see, like, yeah, someone who might fear so much that they need more connection or love than the other person, that person
Mhm.
also usually shows up as very attentive and loving, at least in my
Mhm.
experience.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, so, like, all these parts are talking at once, like, "Oh, I can't
Yeah.
ask them to hang out twice in a
Yeah.
week because they're gonna think
I
I've gone.
know.
But I
I
love them
know.
and they're so interesting, I love hanging out with them."
I
Like, it's
know.
all the
Totally.
competing
Yeah.
voices.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, and then, like, the assumptions we have of other people, or the assumptions we have that other people assume, right? That,
Mhm.
like, there's, like, these social rules, or it seems like, where, like, you can't ask to hang out with someone more than once a week or whatever that rule is in
Yeah.
your head, but that other
Yeah.
person might not have that rule in their head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I
I
would
think
hang out
it's
with my
just
best
like
friend every day if I could.
I think it's just good to, like, bring it up too. I mean, maybe that's edgy, but, like, to be like, "Hey, I'm texting you. This is the second time I'm texting you this week. Like, is it okay?" Like, I know
Yeah.
that could annoy people in the past, but, like, how do you feel about that? Maybe people aren't gonna be as honest as, like, you'd hope with their answers, but I think just, like, stating that stuff too, being like, "Hey, I know I've texted you once already, so I hope this is okay," or, "Let me know if it's not." You know?
You know I do
But
that with you.
it's interesting to, like, set the frequency too, even when you're, like, dating somebody. You're
Yeah.
always kinda checking in about the frequency, like, what's the pace gonna be? And both people are determining that.
Yeah.
But when you're, like, making a new friend, I feel like that's always interesting to figure out because some people will kinda put in more effort and try to make it more of a frequent friendship, frequent hangs, and some people are like, maybe I text this person every once in a while," or it's like a once a month type of thing. But
Yeah.
everything's I don't know, you determine that. Yeah, but it's
I have
important to
this
check in
theory.
too.
I have a theory related to
Yeah,
nothing and has no evidence, but
yeah,
it's the theory of intervals. So, like,
okay.
you have, let's say, my mom and I text each other every 4 days or 5 days, and if one of us doesn't, the other one does. Like, it's just, like, that kind of energy,
Ooh.
like, that's our
Mhm,
frequency, or that's our interval of connection.
mhm,
Or, like, my best friend Ben and I, like, if we're not
mhm.
sending each other a photo every other day, it's because one of us is sick, or, like, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
And of course, friendships, like, increase the interval or decrease it. But I think that's
yeah.
what relationships are. Like, we have this, like, innate sense of how often to connect. And maybe that's a
Mhm,
Capricorn rising thing, that, like, I do have,
mm,
I feel like I have this, like, time based way of staying in touch with people. So
mhm.
maybe my theory falls apart with myself, but I because it seems true when I don't message someone at that interval, that the person in the friendship messages me at that interval, you know?
Ooh, yeah,
So,
reciprocation,
a theory
yeah.
that our listeners can tell me is wrong or not, I don't care.
That's really cool.
It helps me make sense of things.
Well, I think this was such a fun episode. Thanks for being my friend. Thanks
Oh,
for being a friend. That's
won't you
the Golden
be
Girls song.
my neighbor? Thanks for joining us for Parts and Charts, the IFS and Astrology Podcast. If something sparked insight or resonated with you, we'd love to hear from you.
No, really, we're here to make friends. Reach out to us, leave a comment, subscribe. And if you feel called, share this episode with someone you care about. Or if you want to work with us one-on-one and go deeper with this work, check the link in the show notes for how to find us.
Until next time, may all parts of you feel like family.